Welcome to the Strive podcast, fam. Today we had the pleasure of chatting with Nathan Carnage Corbett, a good friend of ours of mine and Miles, and actually was one of our original striking coaches way back in the day. Most people would know him as an 11-time World Muay Thai Champion. He actually is on the Gold Coast right now, and we just finished doing a seminar with him, which was really awesome to see because he hadn't actually been in the country for the better part of 3 to 4 years with COVID. And man, I love this podcast just simply because he was very vulnerable in terms of where he was at as a person, the highs and the lows, and how he's managed to really find himself again as a coach and basically a mentor in terms of delivering his Carnage striking system. So I really hope you guys enjoy this podcast as much as we did. This podcast is also brought to you by Combat Nutrition. Basically, all supplements, banned substance tested, nutritionally complete, perfect for anyone wanting to fuel their passion in the combat sport. So you can check it out at cmbt.com.au to find out more.
The one they call the Carnage. Welcome to the Strive podcast, brother. So good to have you here.
Yeah, no, it's good. And I like the word strive. It's awesome.
What does it mean to you?
It just means that you must not give up, just keep striving, because a lot of people, stop too easily. So strive on is a powerful word.
Bro, it's honestly amazing to have you here. For those who don't know, you and Sel knew each other for quite a long time, didn't you?
Yeah.
Or did you know each other when Nath came and started striking at our gym? Or you knew him well before that, didn't you?
I knew him before that, and it was probably through the footy circles.
Really?
Yeah. Well, it was kind of a thing prior to MMA or anything really coming up. Like, Carnage created that Muay Thai scene on the Gold Coast. That was when they used to have those.
He was the Muay Thai scene.
Yeah, they used to have those massive shows at the old Gold Coast Convention Centre and everything. And so, me and Birdie were partners in Biscuit, still are partners in Biscuit. And so I think Birdie may have known Carnage first, and then he was only living across the road from Biscuit. So that was like first introduction, and then Rach, our manager, knew him well, and then it went from there. He even coached us in. Then I wanted to try get into it, and so I found a friend's place, Chris Hogan, who that had like a little studio at the back, and then Carnage was like holding pads for me and Brocky.
No way, that's so cool how shit comes together like this.
Yeah, man, it was really cool.
I remember Carnage walking around Burleigh, and maybe Broady or Nobbies or whatever when he was plus 100 kilos and in his like fighting prime, and just going, oh, that's Nathan over there. Oh my God, I would hate to fight that guy. But anyway, hey, look, we need to make an introduction, and look, it's so typical for you to come onto a podcast and to talk to people and talk about fighting, right? And so I want us to get a little bit deeper than that. I want us to do better than that. I want us to have a bit of a deeper discussion. But for those who don't know who you are, and even for those who know you are, like, let's set the scene. Please give everyone a little bit of an introduction about yourself, your background, and please don't hold back.
Okay, then, yes. Well, firstly, yeah, I'm more than happy to, not talk about fighting. Of course, fighting is something that I do and something that I've done as a professional fighter. I started martial arts when I was about 13, 14 years old, started in a traditional karate. And then a few years later, found Muay Thai. So I was like 16 and sort of cross-trained the Muay Thai and the karate up until I was 20, and then decided, okay, I'm going to give this Thai boxing a real good run, and left karate behind, joined a professional Muay Thai fight gym. And then the journey went on from there. In 2003, I became Australian title holder in 2001, won it 4 times. And then 2003, got my first world title. That was at 82 kilograms. And then I went up a few divisions, fought on at 86 kilograms, won another, I think it was, if I do the maths, it's probably about, I don't even know, it's because I had like 11 world titles in the end. I had 4 heavyweight and 1 at the other weight. So what does that end up being? Like a 5. So then 11 minus 5. So then 7 world titles at cruiserweight. Yeah, then I went up to heavyweight. I never actually got over 100 kilos, believe it or not. I was I always walked around it. When I fought at heavyweight, it was 96.6 kilo cutoff for the WKN title fight weight. And I used to walk around anywhere from 95 to 96.
Yep.
So that was just like my walk around weight. Couldn't get bigger. Tried to get to 100, but just my body wouldn't do it. And just fought it that way. It didn't really matter to me fighting heavyweights at that weight. If I had elbows, I didn't care because it was almost like I was hitting them with, 110 kilos anyway with the elbow strike. But so then I retired in 2014. And since then, moved. I travelled the world first, and then again, of course, as you spoke earlier, did a small little, about a year on the Gold Coast, 2 years on the Gold Coast, travelling back and forth to Europe and different countries teaching, and then teaching with you guys for a little bit there, and then decided to move to the US, which was about 4.5 years ago, and of course, pursue my teaching career, and went from teaching just randoms, a couple fighters, more just inspiring people. Then TV work, got into commentating for line fights. So that was pretty cool doing the TV work. And it's finally back in Australia after 3 years. So we got to reunite. I did the seminar at the gym on Saturday, which was amazing to see the facility grow from 3 years ago when I was back just for a short period, but more so from like 5-6 years ago. I remember you saying, I said, you're going to pump this gym up or what? The jiu-jitsu class is only like 3 people turning up, or the wrestling club is only like 1 person turning up. We're not going to market it. I said, this is the best facility on the Gold Coast as far as the way it looks. It looks great. It's like a showroom. Let's get this thing going. They're like, just organic. It'll happen. And then, I've come back a few years later. They've definitely growing it well. So well done on that. But that's sort of my career, I guess, as such, is 15 years as a professional fighter, 64 fights, 60 wins, 42 knockouts, known as a knockout artist, known as the man with the golden elbows, the Grim Reaper of Muay Thai, the Carnival of Carnage, and Mike Tyson of Muay Thai. There's a few different things like that, so that's about it.
Sick names.
I love it.
Sick names. Man, in particular, you mentioned it briefly at the seminar, but a kid from the coast, really nice place. I've met your mum, met your family. You don't come from any type of like crazy type of hardship military background, but without a doubt, probably the most savage K1 Muay Thai fighter that's maybe ever lived. What actually fostered that? Like how does often you see boxers come from like proper hardship, like proper hardship, and that's led to their environment forcing them to become such a savage. Were you born straight savage, or do you think that it developed over time, or the environment fostered it? What led you to become obviously Carnage Corbett?
Yeah, good. What a great question. And how deep do you want me to go on that one?
Go deep. Go as deep as you want.
I wasn't born a savage, but if I did some past life regressions where I was, a leader 1,000 years ago of many different tribal, places, and where I was leading, I was a gladiator, I was a Viking, I was a samurai, I was a lot of different things. So there must be something there, because I've asked those questions because I wasn't born this life as that person, I was born, my mum always says that, I'm spending a month with my mum, it's been great. She's like, I'm so proud of you, you've just come so far, you're just a timid young little child, so, timid and just, I guess more, sweet natured, afraid, I guess you could use those words, but who really knows? I mean, all I know is that martial arts, was something that happened to me, and I found martial arts to get that strength. So no, I wasn't raised in a neighborhood where I needed to fight. I wasn't, I don't have that story. Like there's that story where, I was like beaten up as a kid, or I was, this happened to me, or this happened, or I was homeless, or that, or different, different cultures in different places, and they have to learn to be a fighter, like in Thailand, or Brazil, or Africa, or all these places where they, have to fight. And for me, I didn't have to fight at all. I think, I said that in one or two of my seminars. I said, we are really like privileged just to live in this country. You're very privileged just to be here alone. And so fighting for me, it really just come from a deeper why. And that's why people ask me like all the time when I'm teaching, like, how do I get that energy? I said, well, you need to understand that if your why is not super deep, you know, you're going to fall short and you're going to quit at some point. And my why to become strong after feeling, I guess, not, you know, intimidated by anything, but just like not feeling super confident in myself as a teenager. And I was like the man of the house, but I was the youngest with 2 older sisters, and a mum and dad didn't live there. And I just felt that need to feel like I needed to take care of my family. But I guess I had fear of the violence. So I chose martial arts as that vehicle to go forward with that. Then stepping into the ring and fighting, and you said a word that one of the most maybe potentially violent, brutal, aggressive Muay Thai fighters of all time, and thank you for that. It's funny, my son actually said that to me about a year ago. You know, he's 20 now, and when I was fighting, he was too young to understand, really. You know, he was at the shows, but he remembers it, but he couldn't understand. And now he's been looking into my fights and my career and said, Dad, like, you're the most aggressive fighter I've ever met. You're the most, like, da-da-da-da-da, all these kind of things, which was cool. And for me, the reason why I was like that is because, and as I spoke at the seminar as well, it's really a mindset of like, well, I didn't want to accept average as an existence in my life. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I didn't go to school. I didn't go to college. I didn't have a desire to fill those needs. And I just knew that average didn't sit well with me. And so I guess for me, when I stepped into the ring, it wasn't really so much that I was a violent, aggressive child that needed to get some anger out. I guess it was just that I'm in the place that I have to be that person. I have to become that person, because the only way I can get through this is become that person in that moment, and it's okay. So I developed it over time. But even right back to my probably very first kickboxing fight, I was like that. And then the second and the third and the fourth and the fifth and the sixth and so forth. And before I had 7 fights, I was already called Carnage, and then knocking people out, beating people up, and then Australian champion. And before you know it, I'm on this KO route of knocking people out, destroying people, aggressive, violent. And to me, it was just what I believed I needed to do to be better than average. And that's why I say you got to be okay with getting as violent as possible in that arena. Outside of that arena, I've never had a street fight. I've never hit anyone outside the ring. I've never threatened anyone's life. I've never bullied anyone. I've never done any of those things. And that's probably why I'm an advocate today, to really help people more be confident than fight. Like, my seminars are all about fighting, but actually they're not. They're actually all about making someone be a better person and inspire them to overcome their average, below average thought patterns.
It's going to be my next question, and I would love for you to keep talking about this mentality about being average and keep going a bit deeper with it, because that's what I certainly got, and I know a lot of our students got a lot out of the seminar about that, and that was the one thing that stuck with them. And you talked a lot about, you know, we have an opportunity to be something special, like why choose to be average. Sel and I talk a lot about, the same sort of concept, and we feel as though people are either running away from something or trying to run towards something to give them the motivation to be more than average. They're either running away from a difficult past, or, they're trying to search and seek freedom, so they're trying to run towards something. What do you think it is? You talked about being able to develop, this motivation and intensity, but you did also say that you had it at the start as well. So, talk to us a little bit more about that and how people should start thinking about this concept and why they shouldn't be average and, why they should be something special. Yeah.
Well, I guess I could go back to when I said I had it in the beginning. Well, my first karate lesson, maybe I didn't have it, maybe my first karate fight, and point sparring anyway, weren't even allowed to hit each other. Maybe I didn't have it. But I guess over a period, of the first few years of training, when I had my first kickboxing fight, I was like, bell rang and I'm out the back and I'm nervous. But then when the bell rang, I was just go for it, And I think for me, when I was fighting, and more so now that I am teaching and becoming more of a mentor than anything else, I actually took on the role. I went back to my roots, and I don't demand people or ask them to call me sensei, but if they want to call me sensei, it's going to benefit their life because it's about giving them the ability to show up for someone more than they'll show up for themselves. So the sensei role empowers them. It doesn't empower me, although I do feel empowerment from it because then I step into that role to be, constantly that pillar of strength for people. So that really helps a lot. But the above average mentality and why is it important and how do people, I guess, attain that is there's a lot of excuses that runs in most of us, like of course there's hardship. Of course some people have had the unlucky stick, where they have had things happen to them and trauma happen to them and things like that happen to them. And I recently did like a Carnage car chat and I was talking about, fate, can happen and sometimes we chose a life that was coming our way before we even got down here. It depends on how much spiritual work you've done or how much you want to go into it and dive into it and whether you believe it or not, it's up to you. But I like to sort of open up and go into the other realms to sort of, talk to people who understand. They say that nothing happens by chance, but free will gives us opportunity to change things. That's the whole point of free will. And, nothing happens sort of by chance in the sense that if something has happened to you that's kind of like a tragic sort of like, some hard things that, some people have had to put up with going up, they can either become the victim of that, or they have to, overcome it, overcome it. And I'm not necessarily, I was lucky enough to not be a victim of anything that was just like traumatic, and I even remember like saying, when I was young, I was like, I haven't really got a story to tell because someone says, you should write a book. I said, well, I haven't got a story to tell because, I wasn't beaten, I wasn't raped, I wasn't, I didn't go to jail, I didn't have all this, I wasn't a drug addict that come from the dead and come back. I'm like, I don't have a story. What's the story? And it's like, I just realized, well, you don't have to have all that to have a story. It doesn't have to be like, because everyone's journey is different and everyone's journey is different to every point. And I just feel like it's important to encourage people that no matter what the journey is, they still have a decision to make and they still have a choice to say, well, I've been given this, like people who may be born in countries that aren't so blessed as, like we said, blessed to be born here. We all still have that choice to decide to be more than average and better than average. And better than average doesn't mean I have like a better car or nicer clothes, but you can also have a better than average attitude. It's more of an attitude or who you are and how you treat people. Like I'm going to be an average person and treat people poorly, because a lot of people treat people poorly. You can do all that. You don't have to be rich to change your attitude. You don't have to be rich to change the way you treat people. You don't have to be rich to change your internal dialogue to have a better life.
So true, man. So true. I know one of the weird things was when you moved pretty much at like the start of COVID in a weird way. Like you were there for a period and then almost the world changed as you were evolving into a new life in the States and everything. So I remember reaching out to you when you probably had been there maybe 6 months to a year, and I was asking you what's it like over there. And you gave some insight into like it's not bad, but things are different in terms of how the world was evolving. And I don't know where it sits now with you. Me personally, I know the world is like super, super strange. I can only imagine with the amount of people you bump into in a metropolis like LA, how it may seem. Tell us, from someone that I think is extremely present, extremely real, you can't do what you've done in your life without any type of fakeness because you're stepping into a ring and there's complete truth and definition in there where you think things are headed. And I know you have a son as well in terms of how you even guide people in this new world. Because for those that obviously weren't as fortunate as me and Miles have experienced the seminar, the thing I took away the most I took out of it is, one, the giving of energy, and two, complete like presence and passion in terms of what you're doing. Whereas in this modern world, it can unfortunately not be as simple as the lessons that you're trying to pass on.
Yes, that's a a great question again. I think for me personally, I think for a long time, when I first moved to America, after I retired, I kind of doubted myself because I was like in this neighborhood with a lot of people with educations, you know, like it's all about college and degrees and business and educations, and I was like this fighter that just retired, so I was kind of like, not that I was a has-been, but you know, I was like, okay, that's what I was before, and now I'm this person trying to figure out my life again, and I had a lot of not confident, like getting smashed confidently, but just like, you know, trying to figure out like who am I and how do I fit into this world now that I'm not fighting, and how do I have a life above average and a greater life and still succeed further past just the fight. That was it. I was better than average then, but now what? So then after a few years of doing that and then talking about what you're saying about how there's so much change, and being in America, they're a little bit different culturally, the way that they are to Australian, you know, not all Australian, but I guess there's that stereotype of all countries, right? So I sort of in the last few years just sort of connected back to just my own internal intelligence and trusting in the intelligence of who I am and all of my life experience as a fighter. I've gone through so many challenges and overcome them. And there's a lot of wisdom in that. And I feel like there's a lot of weakness in the world now. You know, like not, I'm so strong because I can get punched in the head. I'm not talking about that weakness or strength. I'm talking about the weakness that it's like, oh my God, you know, you can't say this in the office place. Oh my God, you can't say that anymore. You can't call someone, you know, you can't call someone this, or you can't call someone that, and you can't say this, and you can't say that, and it's this and it's that. And I don't even want to say the words because it's like, oh, I'm just like, man, really? Come on, let's just get over it, right? Let's get this whole like, oh, don't be a chauvinistic and, you know, feministic, and it's like all these kind of things. I'm like, I love females. I grew up with women. I love my mum is my hero in the sense that she raised me. I have 2 sisters. I love them dearly. I'd protect them for the rest of my life. I have a loving girlfriend. And it's like, I love women. So let's not even worry about that and talk about that. And there's just so much going on where it's just everyone wants to have this, like, they say and they say and they say. I'm just like, it's getting too complicated.
Yeah.
It's getting too complicated. And I just went back to like, I'm not a simple person. I'm very, very complex, but I'm like, I just brought it back to the simplicity of like, if you know that your heart is in the right place, if you know that you're just trying to empower people to be better, not from ego, not because, oh, look at me, I'm doing this. Even when I put stuff on Instagram now, I said, before I even put it out there, I go, is this ego that wants to post this post? Is this wanting validation? Is this wanting like the likes and the fires and the hots and or is this me going, here, this is my business and I'm going to share it with you because this is my passion. Take it. So I always check in with myself. It's okay. No. Okay. It's nothing to do with I need validation. I need this. I need that. It's just about showing people to show up. I get so many hate comments all the time about my post, but then on the same time I get people saying, thank you so much for hitting me in the seminar. It was the best thing that happened to me in my whole life. So I've had to walk this path between what's strong, what's weak, you know, what's right, what's wrong in the sense of things, and I just decided to connect to that I know it's right.
Yeah.
I know that I'm just trying to empower people and do it right. I don't have an education in politics. I don't have an education in that sense of things, but I have this internal feeling that I know what I'm doing is good. So I feel like there's so much, even some of the trainees that Paul Briggs, I was up with his gym, and then I was with Nuggets gym and stuff like that. And they were saying, oh, you know, they're so soft these days. You can't train them hard anymore. You can't do this. You can't do that. And we know as trainers and fighters that, of course, there's the UFC top 10 guys who are trained like animals. Yeah. They're not complaining about getting hit, you know. So I don't know exactly what he means by obviously what generation, what he's talking about. But there's so much room for excuses now. There's so much room for weaknesses, and there's so many. I don't know even what the word is, but there's just so many like ways for people to get out.
Yeah, the safety courts. There's a billion and one safety courts.
That's the word. Safety courts is the word.
It's mental, man.
I've been talking a lot to our team, MMA team, and even to a couple of guys who pulled out of fights recently. And I told them that I didn't judge them for that decision. And it's not that they are professional fighters. They wanted to do this to have an experience. And for whatever reason, they decided to pull out. And I just said to them that sometimes life gives you exits, and it happens all the time. But it's up to you to decide whether you want to take that exit. And the exit always looks appealing when you're going through something that's hard. But what's even more appealing and fulfilling is what you get at the other end if you don't take that exit. And I think that's probably sort of like similar advice to what we're trying to say now, is that, like, you know, what the fulfillment that you got for winning 11 world titles would have been is just so, you can't even imagine how much greater that feeling is of fulfillment that you would have had than if you decided in this fight camp on the first time that you had a world title opportunity that you decided to pull out or not go through with it.
Yeah,
the trajectory of your life would have been so different.
Can I say something on that? Well, that's awesome, so good. In 64 fights that I had in my career, I had 60 wins, I had 42 knockouts. And I talk about this in my seminars, or I talk about this on my podcast, or I talk about this on my car chats, or I talk about this anytime I'm doing mindset to try and, you know, stimulate people into not being cold. And you have to be red hot. There's no excuse to be cold. Every single fight I ever fought, I was red hot. When the bell rang, I was red hot. Doesn't really matter if I lost the fight, won the fight, knocked the person out, went the distance, won on points. I was winning. And this is to all fighters or all people. Doesn't have to be a fighter. It could be anything you do. I never took a fight that I wasn't ready for, in the sense that, not the opponent. I didn't even know who the opponent is half the time. But I never took a fight on short notice, because I prepared myself every time professionally. I never pulled out of a fight in my whole fight career in 15 years. I never pulled out of one fight. I never said to a promoter I'm going to turn up and not turn up. I never said to a promoter I was going to turn up and then not fight properly, fight like, you know, weak, and can't even say the words because people get offended. So I won't even say what I would say. And every single time I'd bring it. So I'm not some superhuman. I'm not some genetically gifted freak that's got something more than you have. It's a total standard. And if I can do that, I expect every other person to walk that way too. And that's what I'm trying to do, is to push them forward. So when you say you had fighters pull out, that's pathetic. That's weak. If I was training a fight and they pulled out, I'd be like, all right, good luck for your journey. We're done. Like, don't even. If I have students at my gym in California, it's not even my gym, it's my mate's gym, who said, let's make it ours, but it's technically really his. And I'm lining my students up, and I say, if you think for a moment that you can walk away from this gym for 2 weeks and not tell me why you're not here, and come back to training on a Monday, that you're going to step onto my mat in class, you're absolutely wrong. I don't care if you have a day off. I don't even care if you have a month off. Just tell me why, where you are. Because I'm not going to stand here, teach you and give you every part of me, and you're going to walk away. And this is just members. There could be businessmen. I said, by the way, if I don't like you, I'm going to kick you out of here, and I'm going to pay Bryce the money for your membership, because I don't really care. And I don't do weirdos. If you're weird, you're gone. If you're a weirdo, you're out of this gym. I don't do weirdos. If you're weird, then sort your shit out and stop being weird. I just tell them how it is. I'm so straight. I'm so blunt, as you know, and as you saw me on the weekend. I'm so blunt, but I'm helping them, because I'm not doing it for ego. I don't care. I'm not even getting paid for the classes. So if I'm turning up and you've got Nathan Carnage Corbett, all the things we spoke about, what I've done in front of you, teaching you, and I said, if I'm on the mat on Monday, Tuesday night, you better be on the mat. That's not me going, oh, I'm the best person on the, oh my God, ego. No, but it's just fact.
Right.
It's just fact. If there's a legend who's like a savage still standing in front of you on Monday, Tuesday night, you better be on the mat. Yeah. Otherwise, just quit this gym now and don't come back.
I want to add another layer to what we were talking about, where you were saying you were always prepared, you always turned up, you never backed out of a fight, you never told no to the promoter when you were locked in. But that doesn't mean that you weren't nervous coming up to a fight, or had the demons in your head, or, you know, that devil on the other side of your shoulder saying, should you do this? Are you really prepared? Is this guy going to knock you out? Are you going to fall on your face in front of all your friends and family and all these strangers and all these sorts of things? I'm sure for the 60 fights, you felt it every time. You know, you spoke about it in the seminar, but you were able to control it, move past it, and still get the job done. Is that right?
Yeah, and again, an absolute beautiful question. It's so powerful, that question, because that's what everyone is thinking. But it's you, Nathan. But it's you, Carnage. But I feel fear. But Carnage doesn't. Carnage is the man that you saw, that you were like, oh my God, this guy's a savage when you saw me at Burley or whatever it was. This guy's a killer and blah, blah, blah. All those things I am. But all those things is on the other side of those things is I'm still human. I still have emotions. I still have fears. I still have self-doubts. I still have those things that can make you consider pulling out of a fight as such. There was never a consideration ever for me. I was never going to consider. I just had to deal with those feelings. Because that's the whole thing about integrity. And that's actually the biggest thing I'm teaching right now on planet Earth is integrity.
Yeah.
Because if you have to be a man of your word. You have to be a man or a woman of your word. If you say you're going to show up and fight, you're going to show up and fight.
Yeah.
And when I say there's no time to be cold, that means when the bell rings, you're not just showing up to fight. You're showing up to really fight. We're not just putting on a show for you to come up and just do a lousy job. So even getting to the fight alone is one thing, but then when the fight rings, you got to perform. So yes, self-doubt, fear. I mean, you're out the back. You're feeling nerves. Of course, every single fight. Some people, would say, oh, I love that feeling. I love fighting. I just love the adrenaline. And I must have loved it too. Otherwise, I wouldn't have continued with it. But there is a small part of it was like, whoa, when's this going to finish? When am I going to stop feeling this anxiousness? When am I going to stop feeling this like a little bit like, am I afraid? Am I scared? Is there something wrong with me? Is it my opponent in the change room laughing that he's going to go and try and knock me out right now? And I'm over here fearful of getting in their ring and fighting. And my first kickboxing coach, Greg Whitehouse, lovely man, he said to me, Nathan, when those nerves leave you, please retire. Because he wasn't training me anymore. He said, when those nerves are gone, I want you to retire. Those nerves keep you alive. And that's what people don't understand, is they confuse nerves as 100% self-doubt fear versus nerves as preparing your body for war.
Said the same thing to a fighter last night.
So
I said, next time you're out the back, because he was talking about getting into his own head and feeling the nerves. So the next time that happens to your body, you say, thank you. Thank you to your body. Thank you, body. You're preparing me for battle. I'm going to get hit. I'm going to get kicked. And my body's preparing myself so I don't feel it, so I can run through it. I can do my job, And I could just see that changed his mentality. He was like, oh. And it's like, that's your body doing its job. Don't think of it as like that's your body's way of trying to scare you and fear you, and you're in fear, and then you're becoming weaker because of it, and don't try and push it to the side and not use it. It's something that should be used. So I agree with that. I'm so glad you said that. I really, really wanted to keep going on this point of integrity.
Yes.
Because when you guys talk about sort of these generations becoming weak, it's complicated, but I think integrity is one of the biggest things that is being lost these days. And Cell, and I'm very open about this, that Cell was a big proponent for me thinking about integrity, because the man has integrity, and it's made me thought about that so much. And you're the same. So I'd love for you boys to have a discussion, and I'll put my input in because I'd like to think that I have integrity too. But when I think of true integrity, it's always been Cell, and I can say that it's always been you too. So talk to me, boys, about what integrity means to you and why it's important, and what is it, and how do people build integrity, and if they don't have integrity, what does that mean?
Yeah. I've always thought of like integrity almost like the yin yang symbol, and like on the white side integrity, maybe there on the black side respect is there, and it's like the two work together. So if I'll use my kids as an example, or I'll use anyone, but if I said to someone that they felt something was really important to them, whatever that important thing may be, and it may be my son's birthday, or it may be seeing my mum because it was a special day, and I said, I'll be there to do this with you. And the reason why I'm doing this with you is because obviously I love you, but more than anything, I respect you. Like, you're my mum, you do this for me. You've done all these things for me over my life and period. And then I don't show up. One, what does that do in terms of what I deem someone that I respect so much? It removes that. It removes that relationship of respect you have with someone. And people often think of it in small doses, like it's not that big of a deal. But anything starts off small. Everything starts off small, and it builds and it builds and it builds. And I've just seen it so many times with someone just saying something small like, I'll do this, and then they don't do it. And then that becomes part of their DNA. And then it snowballs and snowballs. And then all of a sudden, they're fucking off on everything. Like, it can be really big things, but it always started with the smallest thing that they said they would do. And then they lose the respect of whoever it may be. It may be a partner, it may be a loved one, it may be a friend, it may be a family. But the one thing about respect, dissimilar to that yin yang thing, is if you break it, if you break that respect cycle, it's almost impossible to win back. Like, it's one of those things that I feel you lose a lot in your life over time periods. But the one thing that everyone should always want is to be able to speak to someone and have respect, and also give that respect back to the person that you're talking to, because that forms the fabric of all relationships. If you don't have that, no different to what Carnage was saying about his students. If he didn't have that respect, and if they don't have the respect for him to say, I'm not going to be here because of X, or Carnage saying, hey, I'm not going to teach because of Y, that relationship is completely shattered. Hence why he's saying, if you're not going to respect me and give my time respect and my being and what I'm giving to you respect, then don't come to the gym. I feel the exact same way I don't coach though, but I feel the exact same way about all other aspects of life. It's like my biggest thing. If you say something, have to do it. Always.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's exactly right. I mean, respect is the big part of that component with integrity. And I often say this all the time. You can be the most wealthiest person in the world, a billionaire. If you've lost your integrity, you can't buy it back.
Yeah,
it's gone. Like, your $1 billion will not buy back integrity. So it's so once you've lost it, you're actually worth nothing. I mean, you can have your little life, but it's for me. I mean, there's people out there that don't even care. They're just sharks. They just rip people off. They can sleep at night. But for the message that I want to give to the world is integrity. I'm so hardcore about it that I've lost friends.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, you didn't text me back, so we're done.
I'm
in
that boat, man. I feel the same way.
Well, because to me, it's like, it just shows you that I'm not of value to you.
Yep.
I'm not like, I don't need people.
Yep.
Matter of fact, the last few years has taught me a lot to be alone and to be self-sufficient, even though I always was in the ring, because no one can help me in there. But it just, as an adult and growing past that career and moving on, getting a little older, I've developed other skills in my own being, and I don't need anyone. But I also like the fact that life is about sharing experiences together. So I've cut friends off, and a lot of people are afraid of me. Not in the sense that I'm going to go start throwing punches, because I haven't got the reputation that I've done that, so there's nothing to fear. But they're afraid of my energy because it's so intense. Because I'm so integral that they're afraid of it. Like, ooh, they get nervous. I've noticed that in America a lot, around all the boys, at all levels. And it's just integrity. It's just so simple. If you have that integrity, you don't have anything to fear.
Carnage, one day, one of the most powerful things one of my best friends at the time told me was that my energy and my self-belief and confidence actually shines a light on other people's insecurities. And so if people have a problem with me or feel uncomfortable with me and my energy, it's because my energy is shining a light and bringing out their insecurities. And I feel the same thing happens with you.
Oh,
Yeah.
my girlfriend actually, she's been an angel, and she says that. She said, babe, they're just afraid of you. And when I first went to America, they'd try to use their money to overpower me because that was their only strength. Wow. They had more money than me. I had no money. And that's all they had to. And she said, they don't want you to succeed because the only thing they have over you is money. And as soon as you have money, they're not going to be able to offer you anything anymore.
Yeah.
And for me, it was just silly because it shouldn't even be about that. Like, what do you mean there's nothing to offer you? If you're a good human being, you've got everything to offer me. Yeah. You're a friend. I don't care about your money. So what you said there is exactly true, and I never thought about it so much. I was always hurt by it and couldn't understand it, and now I'm seeing more of it, and you bring it up again. It's just, basically putting it, up there again, saying that's a lot to do with it. It's like they can't handle it.
Yeah. Leading into the integrity chat, and also, Bill, you were referring to it before, like your confidence and your belief in yourself. In Carnage, you're no different. You can't win 11 world championships without believing in yourself. And then there's that fine line of confidence. Then people can mistake confidence for ego.
Yeah.
And then people can try and use that term of ego as a negative.
A lot of people that don't have that confidence identify it as ego.
Yeah, they do,
because they haven't been able to.
They haven't been able to channel it. And I'll say, as like a man, a competitor, whatever you want to refer to it, you need a level of ego to achieve something. Like you can't possibly sit here and go within yourself, I am this meek, humble, weak person that is just going to blase through life and not strive, in even the term of the podcast, for absolute greatness. You need something in you to be able to deliver on an outcome. And unfortunately, they've wrapped that negativity around the word ego, but the right amount of ego achieves greatness.
What do you define as ego?
Well, that's the thing. That was literally what the question, I guess, was going to be, because a standard person that doesn't know Carnage, doesn't know you, doesn't know me, could look at it and go, you train, you work out, I came from a football background, so you're around a heap of boys and you're an alpha or whatever it may be, so you have an ego.
Oh, yeah.
Like they'll just pin you with it, just simply because you obviously look fairly fit, you hang out with a whole lot of other guys. Or it could be you're a jock, you're an alpha, you've got ego, you've got this, and then they wrap the term ego around negativity, around whatever it is, compared to like, hey, that person believes in themselves, they have confidence, they try to help others achieve more. That's why they have another group of people that are all looking to achieve more, and that's why they're doing some decent things in the world. They don't look at it from that sense. I was going to ask you more so, I know it would have had to have happened to you because clearly world-class fighter, multiple world championships, your intensity, your passion would often get misconstrued. I know it doesn't by me or Miles, but tell us how you navigate that, because it's something that you would have to deal with, I guess, daily probably.
Yeah. I didn't have to deal with it much in my fight career.
Of course.
I don't know, which was fine. I mean, either way, I would have been, I guess I would have dealt with it, but it never come in my fight career where like, oh, that guy's kind of just ego. I just was in my groove doing my thing, and no one really seemed to say too much. But now, of course, everyone has an opinion on Instagram or Facebook. And since I've been, getting more in the last few years of posting a lot of content of me that, basically empowering people is what it is. But of course, I go into this frenzy some days and just go a little bit like further than I need. The drill might be 3 moves and I might end up doing 8 because I just get excited and just start to flow. And I just get into that flow state and I just enjoy it. I'm right back in the world title fight. I'm in full control. I know what I'm doing. I don't blank out. Like I know exactly what I'm doing. I know where I'm hitting. I know where I'm touching. I know who the person's in front of me. I know everything's going on. I know their lineage, their DNA, their childs, their bank accounts. I know everything about them. Right? Because I'm such an intelligent being when it comes to like energetically that I know exactly who's in front of me. I'm not going to just smash some like person that can't handle anything. And the ones that believe they can't do it, I smash them a little bit harder than they would expect. So then I show them how they could.
Yeah.
And I say, stand up straight, don't move. Why are you moving? And they don't know why they're moving because they're so afraid. I'm like, don't move. You've got this. And bang, they don't move. I'm like, boom. So then that for one moment in their life, they felt, oh, I can do this. So then I get Facebook comments, Instagram comments, oh, you're such an ego, maniac. You're such an ego-driven sensei or coach or whatever they want to call you. Blah, 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 blah. Just giving me this like feedback. And that's why I have to check in myself. Okay. Is that ego, Nathan? I'm like, you know what? I just love it. So you call it whatever you want. I love it. If you're afraid, you want to call me ego, man? I don't even care. I love it. I'm doing this. Get out of my way. That's it. Like, I don't even care anymore. When I was 21 years old, I moved to Hong Kong to teach for 4 months because one of my mentors at the time, he was a karate sensei but a kickboxer, grew up in Germany, a street fighter, like just an absolute, what I looked at as like I wanted to be him, because he was just a savage, you know what I mean? German, Sicilian, I just like, this guy was a beast and I just loved his energy. So I moved to Hong Kong for 4 months just to teach, and I started teaching karate, Muay Thai, 4 months, living right there. And he said, oh, you got such an ego. And I said, oh my God, what? I don't have an ego, do I? Because I come from a karate sensei background. I wanted to be humble, respectful. I didn't want, and he goes, no, it's fine. You need an ego. You're a fighter. Yeah. You're a fighter. You need an ego. I went, okay then. All right, cool. So that was at 21 years of age. So of course I already had that idea at 21.
Yeah.
I'm 42 now. 21 years later, processing that, going through those fights, knocking people out, doing what I do, doing my thing. That's why when people say that now, I'm like, well, you just don't understand.
Exactly.
It's got nothing to do with it. There is ego and there's egomaniacs.
Yeah.
Okay. And then there's healthy ego.
Exactly. And the healthy ego is what allows you to keep going. Because no different to you in life, even more so in life, you're going to get hit with so much. You're going to get literally smashed with, it can be anything. It can be the death of a loved one. It can be like something being pulled away from you that you had worked your whole being for. And if you didn't have like the right healthy amount of ego, you would quit. But that's what the alternative is as well, that you need to find. It is a balance, like anything. There is a balance to trying to work out where it all sits for you.
Let me just quickly say one thing that just come to me to say as you're speaking. I'm just like, it goes back to the first question that you asked about what's happening with the world. And we spoke a little bit about it and moved off it because it's kind of negative in some way, talking about how people are so weak. And we're not talking about just, people these days who missing fights and not training up, but just general population is weak. And that's what it comes back to, is people are going to be like, oh, he's got an ego, because that makes them feel like they can, stay weak and not lift to the occasion. Because anyone, like you said, footballers, fighters, like anyone with some kind of like masculinity that's got power and passion and drive, people who are not like that are going to go, oh, ego. Yeah. Or ego. So it just gives them an excuse to keep listening to their weaknesses, because no one likes to feel weak and pathetic. So as soon as something triggers something that's inside them that's weak and pathetic, they're going to ridicule it and put a name to it. They're going to put a title to it. They're going to put a label to it. And I might have done it myself before at some points after retirement, like, oh, there's that. But it's like, okay, what's that? What's missing inside of you? What's missing inside of you that's making you judge that person? What's missing inside of you that's making you see that way? And what I've got out of that and how I've completely shifted my consciousness in the last couple of years, and majorly the last 6 months, to a point of I'm very happy to be where I'm at right now, is that it's just weak people trying to validate their excuse as not an excuse to be weak.
100%.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, when you were at the prime of your fighting career, what did you used to tell yourself in your own head? How did you used to speak to yourself? What did you say to yourself?
it's interesting because the way I speak now and the way I coach now, people would have just guessed that, I was speaking to myself that way as well the whole time, but it's a progressional thing. And it's also like when I finished fighting and I lost myself, and then I had to find myself, and then I got back into the being what I realized my new role was. Before, the role was the fighter, and now it's the role of the teacher. And
let me ask how you speak to yourself now then.
Yeah, okay, good. Well, how I speak to myself now is, is of positive words, because I've spoke negative words. I actually was at a seminar. I've done 13 seminars. I got 2 to go on this tour, and I was in Central Coast, and I was talking to there was about 30 people on the floor, and I said, if you're my number one fan, like, Nathan, I'm your number one fan. I watch all your fights. You're my hero. I love you. And you wrote on my Instagram, Nathan, I'm your number one fan. I love everything you've ever done, but I just want to know why you hit that person so hard. Delete, block. So you can be my number one fan, and if you question me about something that I'm doing that's quite obvious, that's good stuff, delete, block, because it's negative. So then I went further to say, so I'm just showing you the intensity of all this. Put your hand up if today you woke up, or at some point in the day, you said something negative about yourself. 30 people put their hand up. I said, put your hand up if most days, at some point in the day, at least even just once, you say something not so kind about yourself to yourself internally. Everyone puts their hand up. I said, so why do I need someone else to put negative stuff in my life when I'm negative to myself? I didn't need the help from anyone else. I'm already negative towards myself every day. At least I wake up, don't look as good as I used to look. Whatever it might be, there's something. And then obviously you might be like, shut up, get on with it, have a shower, get on the day, and then have a great day, But there's some kind of negative chat in some way, at some point in all of our heads, at least once a day. It could be thousands of times a day, but it could only be one time a day. But either way, it's still negative thought, action towards ourselves. So I don't need anyone else on my social media commenting something negatively to me. So how I've become now is just changing those thoughts, because I already have them towards myself. So it's like I just got to correct myself all the time, because I can't constantly correct everyone else's thoughts, but I can correct my own and try and, wash that away where it becomes that new dialogue.
What might you say to yourself?
Well, I don't say things like, I am a winner, I am this, I am strong, blah, 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 blah. A matter of fact, when Rose was saying, I'm a winner, I'm a champion, I knew she was going to lose. The fact that you have to chant that stuff before a fight, you've lost. She was already in the state of letting it go. She was already in a state where she, because I've been there before, where you don't really want to fight anymore, but you love it. So you kind of do it because you love it, but you kind of, some reason, there's a piece of your spirit that's just left you. And that happened to me a few years before I finished. My last few fights, I didn't even really want to be there. But I wanted to be there because I still loved it, and I was also getting paid, and I also loved it. But also there's a part of me that was like, I don't really want to be here like I used to be 10 years ago. So I already could tell when she was trying to convince herself to be there, that's too late. You can't convince yourself. So I don't have those conversations like, you're amazing, I don't have those talks. It's just like I don't have any chat, except I'm just preaching good word to people. And when I'm preaching good word to people, I'm telling myself the same action and have that. So if I'm preaching integrity, I better have integrity. If I'm preaching, standards, I better keep my standard high. If I'm preaching about you can't be cold, you better turn up and be red hot, I can't be cold on any of my seminars, because those people deserve 100% of me. As I said I would, as they've seen on my Instagram, as they're expecting to get, and I give them that. So it's more so having those words of when I feel tired and I get emotional and I get exhausted. That's when the old patterning comes in. I'm tired. I've done 5 seminars in a row. I'm get back. My hips are hurting. This is hurting. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I've given out so much of my life force to all these people, which is beautiful, but I'm exhausted. And then I can start finding old patterns coming back, like self-doubt or some weakness or some stupid thoughts. And I just recently have been able to have the ability to just go, okay, I'm tired, and not run with it.
Yep.
Just say I'm tired, I need to sleep, I need to disconnect, I need to not talk to anyone. Maybe if I just stay in my own room for a few hours and sleep, that way I'm not vomiting negativity. Because then you can catch up with a friend and start vomiting your negativity. So that's more or less like where I'm at now. You know, it's taken me a long time to get to that place. You know? So
the reason why I ask is because in my head, my thought on what ego is are the words that you tell yourself about who you are. And I think that if you are kind to yourself, like we were saying before, if you see someone doing good things, you will have kind thoughts about that person doing good things. And if you are not kind to yourself, it comes out in negative ways where you might, you know, speak negatively about someone else doing something good because you tell yourself that you can't do that. And that's where the insecurities start to rise. So, and I think that for people who don't speak to themselves, don't be fooled that your mind is not speaking to itself, because it is. But it's on you to dig deeper and try and bring out and articulate what the things your mind or your body are saying about yourself.
Yeah.
Because it's saying something.
Yeah.
And that is what channels, you know, the way that you move in life, and whether you're a positive person or a negative person. And it's something that you need to keep on track of. Just like Nathan said, it's like sometimes you are tired and exhausted, and then the negative thoughts just come up, but are you able to catch them, and are you able to reframe them and hopefully turn them into something positive? Like, I'm sure you've been leaving these seminars, and I hope that you're at least telling yourself, geez, I'm proud of myself. Look at the positive energy that I'm bringing into these communities. And each time I do it, you know, each time I'm injecting, you know, and passing on this great energy that I have such good intentions about, and I'm feeling so positive that it's going to help and change people's lives, even just one person in this community. And then I do it in all of these multiple communities, and then now I'm sharing this amazing impact to, you know, the greater world. Surely you can tell yourself that, and that's what, you know, dictates the rest of your thoughts.
Yep.
I hope you do.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Because before, sometimes I just recently realized that you know, the busier I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing, the better I am in those places. The better the mind is not, you know, a dormant mind is dangerous. So
Yes.
this seminar tour has been kind of like a life-changing tour for me in a lot of ways, because it's 3 years out of Australia, come back, okay, family, friends, reconnections, heart space, and then being received like massively. I had to say no to like 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 more seminars. I just couldn't physically get them all in, you know. But 15 was a big number, and I just realized in doing that, you know, how much I was proud of what I was doing, because my intentions were coming from the right place. Of course, it's my business. Of course, I charge a fee and I get paid for that because I want to, you know, have a career. Just like I wouldn't fight for free in the end either. But my intention isn't to earn money, even though it is. My intention is to be the energy that I'm bringing each time. So I started to to answer your question, yes, I started to be more proud of what I was doing and saying, you know, and I remember before when I was in America, before I come here, I was tired. I was at the end of a day. I had like 7 or 8 clients, and I had to teach a class, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm exhausted, because I give even my privates like that kind of energy. I just don't know how to switch it off. I just feel like, I guess it's that respect, integrity level of like, you know, that's what you do. But and then I was training my class, about 5 minutes to go, and my class was about to start, and about 18 students turned up, and they all lined up on the line or behind the line. They just sort of, they just sort of like chat there and sit there, but they wait for me. Without having to all right, everyone line up. They're already there. They already know it's that the time's coming. They see the clock. They know where to sort of take order. And I stopped for a moment. And I said to my client, I said, look at that. Got 18 people there waiting for me to train them. Doesn't matter for about 8 hours of clients today. I'm tired right now. Got 18 students there lining up on the line, waiting to be led. See, in that moment, I was like, okay, I need to be in the moment. So at that point, I was like, when I go to Australia, I'm going to be in the moment. Every time I step on the mat, I'm going to be in the moment, right here, with them, and experience this journey momentarily instead of like as a whole. Like, okay, I got to get through it. Okay, I know before you know it, I'm at the airport. I'm flying back to America. Okay. I was like, no, I've done that before in my life, where I'm not really enjoying the moment, just in the process of doing it all, but not enjoying the process as such. So then I guess get into that moment, and then I'm actually not even working. Like it's tiring because it's physically demanding on a body that's had so many fights and all this, injuries. Otherwise, it's like, it's not work. This is living. This is actual living. Not like Eckhart Tolle had a post recently that just spoke to me again. It's like, even though you already heard it before, everyone heard it before, everyone knows it. It's like the destination isn't living. Okay? It's the process. It's the journey to the destination. Otherwise, you've got to get to the destination to start living. But actually, the whole step through is the destination, is the actual living. So I just decided to get back in that mode of living. So then I started to being like proud of myself and what I'm doing with my time. How much am I impacting people? My words are so important. One of the other things that I was going to talk about soon on a Carnage Car Chat was that you never know who's listening.
Yeah, so true. Because
I've gone to these seminars in all different places around Australia at all different ages, from 7-year-olds to 10-year-olds to 8-year-olds. And they train, and these people come up to me, oh man, that Carnage Car Chat. I love that Carnage Car Chat that you did. It really helped my life. I'm like, whoa, I didn't even know this guy was listening. Yeah. And that had happened more than, I love that fight. I love when you knock that guy out. Not one person in one of my seminars has said, I love that combination when you come over with an axe and you pull the guard and then you elbow again and then you hook them and you chop the leg. That's my favorite combination. None. Not one. They said, man, I really love those words. I really love those Carnage Chats. I've been listening to you for the last couple of years. You're such an inspiration. Thank you so much. It's helped me through some hard times in my life, and I just want to thank you for that. And in person, I'm like, whoa, here I am in these places that you just don't even imagine that they're even watching, because they don't say hello. Yeah. They don't say maybe like. You get the view ratings. You don't know who all the views are, and you never know who's listening.
Yeah.
You never know who's watching. You never know who's listening, and that's so important to know that you're changing lives all the time. So I think my intention was that. Who listens, I don't know. The intention is that place. So then I stepped off the mat, or when I'm on the mat, I'll just go back to my hotel, I'll go back to my house where I have a mat, and just a little pat like, yep, good job, keep doing, feel proud.
Cool, man. Now I know we got to keep these, we're keeping these podcasts around an hour.
Yeah.
Do we have a couple minutes?
Yeah, go for it.
We got a special guest, so do you just have a couple more minutes?
Yeah, of course.
Cool. There's a couple of things which I feel like we'd be doing our audience a disservice if we didn't talk about. And you've lived this, and everything you're saying to me, I'm pointing in my mind at moments in your life and experiences that you've had recently since I've known you, where I'm like, I can see that this is where, he's learnt this and he's gone through this moment, and that's what's allowed him to be able to now express it with truth and real facts and substance, because he's lived it. And one of them was that one thing I want to talk to you about is going from the highs of being a multiple world champion and being somebody to being a retired professional athlete and struggling with that identity shift in yourself. I want to talk about that first, and then the next thing I want to talk about is feeling the need to move to America because that's where the destination was, and it just not being exactly what you wanted until you made it what you needed it to be. So talk to us first about your struggle with identity, finding or sort of like remolding your new identity from being the champion to still the champion, but in a different way. Talk to us about that, because I know that that's something that a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah, that was definitely, I probably would say would have to be the hardest time of my life, and probably would only be, probably for the rest, I don't know what the rest of my life was going to look like completely, but probably won't be as hard as that. It was like I had to die at 35 years of age. I was dead, but I was having to walk on the planet alive still. It's like, you're dead, but you're still living. And a lot of times, and then when I moved to America, you know, because obviously in Australia people knew who I was. When I moved to America, and some people didn't know who I was, people were like, oh, this is Nathan Corbett, you know, 11-time world champion. And before they'd even get to the end of it, I'd say, oh no, I used to be a world champion. I don't fight anymore. Like, I had to be so integral, I had to be so honest that I'm like, no, well, that's what I was before, but just because I look so fit now, and I didn't say that because I'm still looking strong since I retired. I don't want them to think that I'm still doing it. And I was trying to justify, like, oh no, but I used to fight, just so they knew that I wasn't that person anymore, because if they expected me to do that today, I can't do it. And I wanted to be like so truthful and honest that I'm not that person anymore. And that was brutal, like trying to tell people, oh no, but I was before, but not now. Like, I was before, but not now. And it's like, well, I was like, whoa. I mean, I don't do that anymore. I've completely surpassed that. It's like, if someone says, oh, this is Nathan Corbett, 11-time world champion, I'm like, oh, nice to meet you, you know. And then like, oh, you still fighting? No, I'm retired now, but you know, oh, well, well done on your career. See, they didn't care. Yep. No one ever cared that I said I retired. No one even, it was my projection, trying to like protect myself from not looking like a phony that I was before, but I'm not now, or this or that or whatever. Just it's all bullshit, really. So we come to that, we use those words identity. It's like, it's an identity crisis where like, that's who I was, which was the fighter, Nathan Carnage Corbett, the fighter fighting professionally, versus who am I now, although I was a world champion versus I'm not a world champion now. It's like, well, you still are, but you're just not currently fighting in the ring to defend those belts. But that was such a big gap to fill that gap between knowing the two. And I guess it was just a matter of, it was just walking the process. It was just having to take those steps. Just like they say, you know, don't worry, if you break your heart, time will heal, time will heal, time will heal. And it's a true story. You get a heart broken and you're like, it's never going to end, never going to end. And then years later, believe it or not, it does get better, you know. So I was lost beyond means. And even when I knew you boys, I was in a bad way. Yeah. You know what I mean? I wasn't great. But of course, when I show up, I do my thing. I still smile. I still teach. I don't like, my life's a mess. But I would drive off in my car and be like, oh my God, you know, like, what am I doing? You know, where's my life going? Because it wasn't that I didn't not like helping people at that time, but I just was like, okay, I'm helping you. Cool. That's great. Your help. But what am I doing? What am I doing for me? Like, it was like, because when I fought, that was for me. It wasn't for anyone else. That was for me. But then when I'm teaching people, they're like, oh my God, they're filled up, they're feeling amazing. They go home, they're excited, their whole week's changed, and I'm driving home going, all right, now you're filled up, but I'm empty. Yeah. What about me? When am I getting something? I'm not getting anything from this. I'm just helping you. I'm not getting it. And I hated it. I'm like, I don't even want to do this. But at the same time, I loved it, but I hated it. So I was just like trying to figure that out for so long. And then I moved to America to answer the question, because you had two questions.
But can you keep going with that? Because I have friends in this position right now. What do we tell them? What do they need to do?
Okay. All right, I'll go on. It is a good one to stay on. You're right.
I'm genuinely worried about my friends.
Yeah. So, you know, like many times I would be like holding pads for someone. I mean, I remember going back to be very vulnerable, going back to when I first retired, and I was still at Urban Fight Gym. And about, I don't know, it was maybe a year, 6 months, maybe I don't know, around that period. And I'd go and do some seminars in Europe and come back, and that was cool, but I would come back. And someone wanted me to do a private training session, and so there was this guy, and he's brought his girlfriend along, and they had $100 bill, and I was getting $100 an hour at the time. So they paid me $100, and then they want to do 1 round each. So there's 1 round on, 1 round off for them, but not for me. I'm like non-stop, pad round. And he gets his break, but then she's on, he's on, she's on, he's on. And I'm like, my hands were sore at the time, her shoulders were sore. I don't even know why they were sore, but they were sore. I'm looking at all my belts on the wall in the gym, and I'm just like, how did I end up here? How did I end up here? And I went down the beach. I'm pretty sure I cried because I was in a bad place anyway. I'm like, how did I end up here? How am I on the other end of a pad that someone could just pay $100 to buy me like some kind of like ride? You know what I mean? Like you can just buy Nathan for $100. $100 you can. It's a pretty cool toy. You can play with him for about $100 later. Off we go. And they're all filled up. I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? And it was miserable. I was just like, how did I end up here? I mean, I fought to be a champion. The reason why I wanted to be a champion is because I didn't want to be average. And then my family never had any money. So I was like, okay, maybe I can make millions. I know Muay Thai has no money. And maybe I might be the person that changes Muay Thai. Maybe I might be the person that somehow, some way fights this so hard that I win all these belts, I become a superstar, and I become an actor, and then I become I become the president of the United States, and I fly to the moon. Who knows? If I do this and this and this and this, maybe I'll get closer to flying to the moon. Maybe I'll become the president. Maybe I'll become this Hollywood actor. But if I don't do that, I never know. And maybe I'll make money because of that, because I knew I was never going to get paid in Muay Thai. So I was just like, that's why I was prepared to never lose, because I wanted to keep projecting my life to a higher platform, to make that money and save my family. Not that they're like on the street, but you know what I mean? To just go, yeah, it's all good. It's taken care of, got it all. And of course it didn't happen. My fight career didn't happen like that. Then after retiring, I'm like, now I'm here holding pads like no one cared. And now I'm thinking, I say no one cared. It's not that no one cares, it's that people live in their own lives. Yeah. And so here I am doing my thing, and it wasn't their fault. I said I was available for $100 an hour, and they just showed up and just did what they did. So it's not their fault. Because I can't be angry at them. It's just where I was at. But all these things happen. Their processes, they're small things. Even going to the little dojo in Currumbin, like, what the hell is Nathan Carnage Corbett doing in that room? A freaking small little room. And then something that you don't know, but I parked my car there one morning, and then my client parked there, and then another client parked there, and then the boss got all shitty and come down and complained about the car parks and wanted an apology. So we had to go upstairs and apologize to this guy. I could have knocked this guy out. My client, I said, can you just go upstairs and apologize to him just so he can shut up? And he went up there because he was half, and this guy was like a kind of wannabe bike. He's a tough guy anyway. Could kill this guy. I said, just go upstairs and say sorry, Goes upstairs. I'm sorry for parking in the staff car park. Oh, that's all right. Next time, just park on the street. I'm thinking, what the fuck am I doing here? But again, I had to stay humble. I had to still keep pushing and projecting forward. I had to keep going, okay, well, this is where I'm at today, but at least I'm trying. At least I'm trying to do things, unless I'm trying to create things, and unless I'm not just giving up and staying at home. Like, okay, I'm trying to keep moving, even with all the things that I've thought I've done and would achieve to way more of a better platform. But this is where I am. Okay, that's where I'm at.
Keep striving.
Just kept striving. No one knows these things. Yeah. They just see the carnage on Instagram, like everything's good. Yeah. So then, just like pushing past, those obstacles, and those obstacles that keep coming, and over time, then moving to and then okay, we won't go to the American part, but it was just a matter of time, and then redefining what I was doing, as versus, someone's buying me for an hour. It's ridiculous. You can't buy me. And they're hitting me, by the way. And I don't get hit. I smash. I'm the carnage. I hit you. My whole career, they're holding pads for me. I'm smashing you. Now I'm going, okay, hit me. They're smashing even though it's on the mitts, but they're smashing my body. They're kicking my legs. You don't kick me. I kick you. That's why I love my seminars, because I'm like, I'm just smashing you. You don't touch me. Now go do it to someone else. I'm passing that on. But I'm like, you can't hit me. You know, I let some people do a demo here and there, but ultimately I'm like, that's just for them to just do it, make them feel proud, and maybe they get that starstruck moment. And I sometimes, pick some people to do a demo and it makes them feel confident and they love it and it's a good experience. But sometimes I've got to be careful because they can hit me on wrong shots and hurt me. And I don't need that. I'm just here, now you go do it. So,
is it safe to say that you have made the transition where you now get fulfillment more so in helping others rather than receiving?
exactly. So that's where I was going to go to. And it's the way that you redefine it. So even for a few years when I was, living in America doing the same thing, I didn't like it. Like I even training some fighters for Bellator. I'm in their corner. I'm like, I don't give a shit about what you do. I'm going to help you get to a fight. I don't even care. That's the truth. They're good men. They're good people, and I like them, and I want them to win. But at the end of the day, I'm like, I don't really care about what you want to do. What am I doing? What am I achieving? I'm getting you to your dream. That's not my dream. My dream isn't to be in your corner. My dream isn't to make you a champion. I want to be a champion. That's it. I'm just trying to figure out how to make money here and survive. So maybe I've got to do this and this and this and this and this. And when it changed was when I started to teach students, and I put the sensei role hat back on. And then I moved into a different essence of power. It wasn't just like someone can just book me for a private. Someone can just pay me for this, pay me for that. Just pay me, I'll do anything. Yeah. It's like, no. You call me sensei. If you're late, knuckle push-ups on the concrete. If you don't turn up for training, don't come back. If you don't return my text, you're no longer my client. So I shifted this power into respect for myself. And then from that respect for myself, I'm not using it to manipulate anyone. Yep. I'm not using it to like ego trip and be like some superior power to someone else and put them down. I'm using it because that's the presence and the essence of power that I have to help elevate people. So that's what completely shifted me from the place of like, oh my, poor me having to train people, to like, now I'm leading people. Yep. And this is my role and this is who I am. This is who I am. Like, yeah, I'm still a savage. I'm still an animal. I'll still smash all of your coaches. I'll smash all of your coaches. That's the new fight now. It's like, okay, I can't beat the current number one in the UFC at my weight. Okay, cool. Give me a trainer. I'll smash them. I'm not the fighter anymore that's in the UFC. Who's 30 years old, 32 years old, 25 years old, training every day. I don't even train anymore. I'll smash your trainer. So I'm the Sensei Savage now. So that's it.
I love it.
Nice, man. Respect for yourself. Out of all the message that came from that, I think was the biggest thing that I saw change with you, man. And it honestly, when, as you said, we knew you weren't in the best place when you left, but to see where you are now, man, one, you should be proud of yourself. Two, we're extremely proud of you.
Yeah.
And just want to support and love everything you do. One, I asked one of the members, because when we wrap up the shows, I get a question from someone that's a fan or someone that knows you, and they asked a really simple question, and it's really definitive, but I wanted to get your answer on it. And they basically said, from Carnage, define in one sentence, what does being a champion mean? And that it was just like, not like a big thing. It was like, what does it mean if you were to define it for you?
Well, I'm going to answer two questions.
Yep.
One is just finishing off the last part, and then I'll go to that question, which was the reason why I made it to where I'm at now through that dark valley is because I just wasn't accepting average to be my retirement of fight career. I wasn't accepting that. Someone said to me, welcome to being normal. I said, no, I'll never welcome to be normal. Yeah. That's your life, not mine. I'll fight and I'll struggle and I'll grind and I'll do whatever it takes to get back to feeling somewhat way above average. Okay? So that's just to finish off on that last part. So that's the reason why I preach about the average state so much, because in all that darkness and all that place of being lost, the reason why it was so painful is because I didn't want to be average.
Yeah.
I had an expectation of myself to be way beyond and way more than just a retired fighter that now retires and on the Gold Coast and then no one even knows who you are and you just like fade away in some gym or whatever it is and you're just a hack trainer as such. Of course, elevated beyond that. To answer the question about what does a champion mean to me, a champion is everything beyond fighting. There's so many fighters out there. There's so many people that are just badasses. There's so many savages. There's so many tough guys. There's so many just evil people and good people that can be violent and they can win a fight and they can win a bout and they can be all these things. And we've seen it so many times, in the UFC. There's humble champions. There's arrogant champions. There's egomaniac champions. So for me, a champion is someone who's excelling to the highest of the highest in that chosen, sport or whatever it might be, and from that place remaining humble, remaining the remaining as he was a white belt still.
Yeah.
With all this newfound knowledge and all this newfound wisdom and all this power that they could now change lives. So that's what a champion to me means, because there's so many people that can fight.
Man, that's so good.
And there's some good fighters out there, believe me. There's some good fighters out there. Better than me, some, But are they really a champion? I would say different.
Yeah. Brother, been a blast, man. Only a few more days with you in the country, but so stoked you made the time. So stoked you were able to do the seminar, be back in the country and spreading the good word and your message and your wisdom. And yeah, hopefully we're able to do it a lot more with freedom in the world again. So, man, appreciate you. Thanks again for coming on, my man.
Big love, Carnage.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, no, it's been amazing. Thank you. And I will be back for sure. Planning another Oz tour next year in March. Now that we've got our wings back, we can fly and travel. So thanks for having me on, boys.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.